Mark Anthony, do you see a whole universe in this one single drop of water?
I cannot hear what you say. What the thunder or something like.
The White Diamond amazes. It's a deceptively simple idea for a film which spirals out into a fractal of lofty emotions. This film is about an airship, yes, but the humans helping that airship into the sky are the White Diamond's greatest strength. From the beginning, we're introduced to the eclectic Dr. Graham Dorrington, who has through great pains constructed an airship of his own design to fly over the treetops of Guyana. Graham is ambitious, charismatic, highly intelligent, and some might say, a bit crazy. From the onset, we're introduced to his passion, his projects, his dreams, and his trauma. And Graham walks us through most of this by himself. By his very nature as a person, he ends up weaving this beautiful narrative through his words, just with his brain and his body. So there's a genius behind the camera, and one in front of it. We learn that Graham blew his hand off as a kid experimenting with rockets, and we can infer from 1 second of agonizing silence that he's probably pretty upset he'll never get to be an astronaut. Silence is one of Werner Herzog's greatest techniques as a director. All throughout his movies, he has a habit of letting the camera linger on people, and just letting them be, and this tends to reveal more humanity than simply hammering them with questions all the time. During this scene, Werner leaves the camera running, and we watch Graham pantomime soaring into the sky until it starts to feel awkward. But you really get a sense that that child we just learned about is still in there, deep down, under all the baggage that comes with being an adult. Getting the airship to the location is an easy feat, however getting it into a state where it can be flown as intended is catastrophically difficult. Everything that can go wrong goes wrong. As the project continues, tempers rise, fights break out. Werner gets into an intense argument with Graham over safety testing. Graham is constantly frightful of what could go wrong, having experienced the tragic death of his colleague Dieter during a similar flight years ago. Mark Anthony Yap, aka Redbeard, one of the local crew on set, is found lounging in an inflatable chair, looking at the airship, which he remarks is like a white diamond. This man has achieved the kind of mindfulness that most people only experience under psychedelic drugs or after rigorous, lifelong training in meditation. He says he's lucky to have seen the ship flying and gives a shout out to his mom. He's intensely likable and a highly empathetic soul whose inner peace acts as a stake by which the viewers can tether themselves to the heart of the movie. Throughout all the drama that ensues in the film, he remains tranquil, almost as if living always in a good dream. Graham notes that despite not having gone through complete formal education, his wisdom outpaces that of everybody else around. He's a wonderfully easygoing soul with just a hint of bottomless mystery. And there's the man behind the camera, Werner Herzog. If you don't know him, he's primarily a documentarian, and his documentaries tend to explore nature, including volcanoes, meteorites, and especially rainforests. Werner himself is a bit of a character. He shrugged off a bullet on live television.
For example, what was that?
He ate his own shoe.
And I said I'm gonna eat my shoe.
And chaos seems to follow in his wake, such as during the filming of Fitzcarraldo, which... one could accurately call disastrous. But one thing you can't argue with is that the guy is a filmmaking genius who's spearheaded some of the most respected works, in general. Werner Herzog has a beautiful way of capturing things. He's almost like a fly on the wall. He aims to frame all the beauty of the present moment without imposing himself onto it. There is no flashy editing, the music is tasteful, and he only explains things when he feels it's necessary for the scene or the movie as a whole. Most documentaries to me come off as obnoxious and atonal in comparison to Herzog's work. His movies are usually quiet, When the volume increases, it does not feel like it's inflating the emotion of the scene, but instead propping that scene up and emphasizing the inherent pathos present in the moment. His films are liable to bring you to tears. If you're an emotional person who cries at movies, you will probably cry during this movie. I almost cried while rewatching it so I could write this video. Not even from a particularly sad scene. I would simply be thinking about the concepts presented, the people and their outlooks, and be driven near tears of inspiration. There's this scene where Werner is just filming birds flying in front of a waterfall, and the music was like a gorilla treating my heartstrings like monkey bars. The film by its very nature is very emotional. It's about a man who is passionate and his dreams really matter to him, and he's willing to go through a lot of bullshit to make it happen, and is doing so despite the countless walls he comes up against. Graham is molded by his pain. He recounts at length what happened, choking up all the while, till you start choking up, then everybody's crying because the story is extremely sad. Werner films these wonderful, strange animals, and Mark Anthony takes us foraging for medicinal herbs. Throughout all of this, the singing of birds is constantly present, and these scenes are all punctuated with extended clips of the rainforest just being there. A lot of this movie is just aerial footage of the treetops. Once the airship finally flies untethered and gets to do what it was meant to do, the movie becomes opium. In your blood, rushing through your main line, this is the big finish, and it is an unbelievably grand feeling. The soundtrack swells over these striking images of the treetops and the waterfalls and the rivers. Werner approaches a small settlement and walks into a man's house and tells him to look at what's flying in the sky. And there Mark Anthony is on the ground to guide it as it touches down in a pond.
That's good.
While the crew is working on getting Graham out of the ship, he's simply sitting there with his eyes closed, his fists against his head with his elbows jutting out. He looks like he's peaked on DMT, and Mark Anthony is there to congratulate him, and it's this ecstatic moment that you really just want to keep going. We get to meet Mark Anthony's rooster, who is a brilliant creature. The rooster, his hens, and his father all sort of form this mini subplot as we're given a bit of history on their family. Graham and Mark Anthony lay down next to the waterfall to talk about birds, how they fly this and that way, and they collectively dive and swoop out of nowhere as if choreographed by music. Werner then films this face-meltingly awesome clip of the birds swooping down the waterfall, where previously in the movie they had conducted an experiment on the waterfall's aeronautic properties. The birds create the somewhat psychedelic spiral down into the pits of the fall, and there are now thousands of birds infinitely spiraling down the waterfall, and the camera lingers on this just long enough to start hurting emotionally. This is the end of the movie, like 7 straight minutes of birds just flying. Watching this on a computer monitor made me feel as if I'd accidentally taken Ambien an hour or so ago and was just hallucinating everything I was seeing. Even rewatching this, I had to smack my gob at how breathtakingly gorgeous this movie is. Even watching it in 720p due to its scarcity, it was total eye candy, at least when I could see through the tears. The White Diamond amazes indeed. It calls itself a documentary, but it also serves as an excellently personal drama, fraught with intrigue, all depicted in one of the most gorgeous places on Earth. It teaches you about nature, aeronautics, and culture, but it also captures all of the sadness, anger, joy, bliss, and all the rest of the emotional spectrum where it exists, that is, every moment in all of humanity. The film is this sprawling story of dreams, pain, and triumph, but most of all it's made up of small, humble moments of intimacy, which makes it relatable enough not only to entertain, but to captivate and to relate to the audience, to instill a feeling that will remain with the viewer. I will never, ever remember everything that happens in a movie, no matter how many times I watch it. What sticks with me is those moments that ring with meaning, those moments where the filmmaker has created or captured something truly beautiful. And Werner Herzog's movies have had more moments like this on average than those of any other director I know. His movies are painfully real, brutal even at times. They cross that line from just a movie to a powerful piece of art that you can just stare into for infinity but never wholly understand. Because the greatest wealth of meaning in these films can be found in the in-between segments, where we're allowed to contemplate what we've seen and how these people in these situations and these natural things all come together in perfect unity. Disharmony is a large theme in Herzog's works. If you've ever seen the clip of him describing the animals in the jungle, you'd know he thinks deeply about pain and suffering. He may not agree with that sentiment anymore, that the jungle is screaming in pain. I haven't a quote to that sentiment, but you get that feeling when he associates the rainforest in this movie with wonder, and paints the treetops of the forest as objects of ecstasy with his camera. The picture he paints is a winding tapestry incorporating countless elements of human experience, and that experience is shown on camera, unadulterated. The human element arises as the natural byproduct of human behavior. None of this is staged, nothing is exaggerated, it all just happens. Just as people die, life flows on. I hope that when I die, I will be put in a place such as this. For when I die, there is no me anymore. I am gone, my body is detritus. I will disintegrate and my skeleton will settle into the earth as I am dispersed throughout nature. I will become the water, the trees, the animals, and the ecosystem. I will be perfect just as I always was, and I will exist in a paradoxically harmonious disharmony until the universe dies. And that is only a new beginning. We exist in an unprecedented era of saturated media presence. Everybody's hands are always clamoring for the camera. We flow through a sea of information in our everyday life, carried by words, messages, thoughts, and images. The words and images you put into your head become part of you. What goes into you comes out of you. Nothing is permanent, nothing is sacred. Everything will die, but we'll all float on anyways. Life is good, and there is more love in the universe than any of us could ever comprehend. For now we are alive, and we are breathing. Our warm blood flushes through our veins, and our hair still grows. There is only meaning where you think there is, and the universe is only what you know. I'm going to lay down now. I'm going to close my eyes. And I'm going to take it easy, just like Mark Anthony Yap. This is good. Everything is perfect, just like a white diamond.